that I'm going to collect from people like you. And I say like you because I know you're not offsetting your 100% of your carbon footprint. So you're going to pay that cap and trade tax. And in fact, if you're in Canada, you already are with your gas guzzler car. There's already a carbon tax on the gas you're buying. That's why gas prices are going to go up, and it's going to keep going up. So then you're going to say, but Mark, I'm going to buy Tesla because I'm like that. But there's going to be carbon tax credits short term on the fact you're switching over to electric, but over time, there's still carbon involved in making that car. There's carbon involved in everything you do. So if you can lower your carbon footprint by growing your own food, collecting your own water, making your own power, you can start avoiding expenses, keeping that money in your pocket, which is the lifeblood of business, ladies and gentlemen, cash flow. And you can use that cash flow and the time value of that cash flow. I studied finance in university. Well, that time value of money is hugely impactful and important to your wealth. And so with that said, I'm going to move into the segment here that is designed to express to you the ROI side of the dollars and cents of why I would retire. I'm in the process of retiring to some degree from the world of marketing, from running a marketing agency, or multiple marketing agencies, in fact, focused on web design development and social media management, creation, content creation, growth hacking, influencer marketing, like all of the things. Literally anything you could do online, we did it, and I built teams that did it. Scaling messages to millions and millions of people, building brands, launching Kickstarters or crowdfunding campaigns, doing #1 best-selling books, or you name it. We were doing it. And I'm still doing it. I still have a team behind me doing it to some degree, but now I'm stepping away more and more and more because there was bets that I was making long-term that made me an investor in 2012, that now in 2021, I get to start to see the fruits of the seeds that I planted. So I'm going to go over 5 reasons why I decided to invest in a farm. 5 reasons why I recognize the power of what this is going to look like and how I could retire by the age of 35. I'm currently 32, going to be 33 this year. So take a quick sip of water. And I'll get into the first one, which is real estate. There is nothing that is making more real estate on this green earth. In fact, if anything, we're probably losing real estate because our ice caps are melting and the coastline is going to rise. Real estate is the fundamental wealth generator of our time. Everything comes from the land at the end of the day. Everything we see here, everything I'm touching or using, all the metal, all the food that I eat, everything I ingest, everything that is being created in any way, shape, or form comes from the land. And it should be of no surprise to you that farming is about land. But farming isn't really about what you create with the land. It's also about the value of the land. Most farmers tend to retire by selling the farm or giving the farm away to their family. And back in the day, they would just stay at the farm and their family would just take over and keep running the farm. But in modern days, where kids have gone off to, university and gone and gotten their own careers or generally stepped away from the farm. Now I think it's only 2% of people actually create 100% of the world's food or are farmers. And that's a smaller and smaller number, but that's wild to think about. Because there's very few people in like Canada or North America. And it's a lot of people maybe in, second and third world countries. I hate calling them that, but that's where a lot of our food comes from. With cheap labor and then shipped on, containers all around the globe. Well, most of the ROI that a farmer will make and how they retire is tending to sell the farm. The value is in the soil itself. But to me, being 20 minutes outside of downtown Montreal, Valhalla, the farm, is so damn close to the city that I knew the city was going to expand in my direction. And I knew that particularly on the South Shore, where we are, there was going to be a real estate boom. We were eventually going to replace the Champlain Bridge, which happened. We were eventually going to build an exit going to our farm, which is one of the second reasons I thought this farm was going to grow, was that the area itself was going to develop. And that prices of land were going to continue to skyrocket, and particularly land, because there's not more and more of it, particularly close to major city centers. So if you can take a giant chunk of farm and turn it into homesteads, meaning a balance between real estate, people living in a house, ideally off-grid, ideally green, ideally all those different things. And I say off-grid, connected to the internet, connected to the life, but well water, producing its own electricity, producing its own food, doing those kinds of things, taking into account for some of its inputs and its needs. And I looked at land right nearby, and I looked at residential land, and I thought, wow, residential land is like minimum 10x the price of agricultural land. And yet they're one next to the other. They're basically the exact same thing. The only gap is this kind of red tape, the laws around building on agricultural land and not building on agricultural land, or what you can or can't do. Now, what I love about agricultural land is that you can basically build anything as a farmer. Now, to be a farmer in Quebec, you have to have $5,000 of revenue a year. $5,000 of revenue. Well, guess what? Year one, I walk out there, plant a tree, take an apple from that tree, sell it from me, Marc Angelo, the farmer, to WSB Media. Why? Simply because I was telling you about earlier, the organization, and I make $5,000 of revenue, and now I become a farmer. By becoming a farmer, I register to get a NIM and all these other things. I get to remove or lower the tax burden, because as a non-organic farm, you can get 70% off your taxes if you register your farm, 85% off if you are certified organic farm. So I can lower my tax, lower my holding costs of real estate, and I can buy real estate in a way that is massive chunks, but that I know, even if I do nothing, will eventually become the city in and of itself. Now, part of me is sad about that, but the part of me that's an entrepreneur sees that as a massive opportunity. Land that's 10x or more, in my case more because of the size of the land that my father and I bought together. The value, I realized that the city was going to expand massively and that those prices were going to skyrocket. Now, I couldn't have been more right. Paid 17 cents a square foot for the land that I'm on. Next door, if I had to buy the land next door, I'd probably say pay $17. That is like 100x the price per square foot. Now, it might be a little bit less in certain cases, like maybe $10 or whatever a square foot, because you have to buy 2 acres of land together, right? But you're going to pay a chunk of money, hundreds and thousands of dollars for a plot of land the way that this house is going to be built on. And so the real estate opportunity that poses is very, very, very interesting. And as a farmer, I can build a bunch of farm buildings, barns or solar shed or greenhouses or whatever. And that's great. There's some restrictions, some things, and you figure that out. But you can't build a house unless you become a full-time farmer. So Marc Angelo, me, I'm a farmer. That's what I do full-time. It's what I file my taxes on. And my company, well, that operates the agencies and the consulting businesses and all the other things, the storytelling expenses, everything to do with storytelling, which is part of farming. In my opinion, it should be considered part of farming because I'm telling stories for the farm and you're listening to one right now. But it's not seen that way in the eyes of traditional farming infrastructure and being a full-time farmer. So me, the individual, is a full-time farmer. That's what I do. I go there multiple days a week and I'm managing the farm and all the paperwork of the farm the other days of the week. Okay? But on the side, I'm also running the marketing agency and also doing consulting and also doing the videography and creating content because that's also part of the farm and building the brand of the farm. It's necessary that I had to have this two-headed monster. But it's great for me from a tax perspective to be a farmer because I can pay lower taxes, like I said, on the land, but also in life. I get better interest rates. I get better insurance. I can be part of a union. I can get access to all these different things as a farmer. It's like life hack, and it's also an essential worker life hack, which is now a thing in 2020 and 2021, where I get exemptions and a bunch of different things. And so by being a farmer, being a full-time farmer, I can actually build my house as a full-time farmer in the house of any employee or family member that's living with me. So let's say I had kids and the kids want to live on the farm, I could build their house. Or have full-time workers and they need to work at the farm and they live far away, but they need to be here, I can build their house. And so scaling and building a community from us is actually scaling the farm. As we scale the farm, we're going to create more employment, we can create more families, more whatever, more life, more space, and we can build the farm towards this 150-person community goal. And with full respect full honor of actually it being a farm. I really want to grow food. We are growing food. We have planted 29,500 garlic this year, for example. Right? And we're planning on doubling that, or if not tripling that, because every garlic creates 3 or 4 garlic bulbs, which I don't know.
I was going to make an Italian joke, but I decided not to.
Yeah. I mean, look, we're trying to keep the vampires away. We're trying to keep the vampires away, all right? Get away from my blood. That's a very interesting joke in 2021. I won't go down that rabbit hole. But long story short, by buying farmland and actually becoming a farmer, essentially running revenue through you, even if you hired people to run revenue through you and then you become a full-time farmer, you can buy much cheaper land than if you were buying residential land. So yeah, I could spend $500,000 buying a condo, or I could spend $500,000 buying a giant farm, and if then essentially I can come out with way more opportunity in the farm if I'm willing to play the long-term game. Because today, the condo, I can get in and move in with some partner or rent it out or do whatever thing. Whereas a farm has holding costs and development costs and time. But the return on that land, like if I built a house, for example, like I'm planning on building a community house, but I'm also building my house where I'm going to live and work from the farm and grow vegetables with lights and stuff so that we can start the seasons earlier and grow the farm and host events and community gatherings and co-op members that are coming together, which I'll get to in a second. All of that is part of what I can see to be a giant opportunity financially. It is massive, the gains that you can make on this. And farmland is skyrocketing in value, particularly here in Canada, because Chinese people are buying up the farm. And I say Chinese people because people from China are buying land in Canada hand over fist. And the same is happening in America and all over the globe. They're investing in farms. And the price of farms are going up, but the average age of a farmer is also going up. I think it's like 80% of farmers are over the age of 55. Or like 85% or whatever it is over the age of 45. So most people who are farming are of the older generation. And so less and less people are going to be involved in farming. And the prices of farms are going to continue to rise because they need to, because they're not going to sell the farm to you because that's how they're going to retire. They need the money to retire, and life is expensive, so they have to sell it for more and more money. And there's less and less land, particularly near city centers. And less land where they can build houses without having to demolish another thing, blah, 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 blah. So farmland and homesteading and this kind of balance where I see the merger of city life and, let's say, normal life, quote unquote, suburban life, if you want to see it that way, and farm life get to mix and merge. I don't think they should be exclusive. I think the way that we have our system is broken. That we have to remove the red tape of what it takes and what it means to be a farmer. We should have more chickens in people's backyards. We should be growing fruit trees in the mediums between highways or local roads. We should be merging with nature and integrating with farms, not just trying to protect farmland, but then losing that war because there's more and more condos and more housing needs. Right? You're selling a house today, freaking the prices are skyrocketing. The prices of wood are skyrocketing. Everything's skyrocketing. Real estate is skyrocketing, particularly here in Canada, but also elsewhere. It's not like it's getting better in Colorado. You're going nuts. And so the real estate component of it and the value that creates is massive, and that's one of the reasons why I would do it. The second is because of the proximity to the city and what that creates. I love the fact that the city was so close, but that it could still be off-grid. No city water, no city sewer system, so you don't have to have high taxes. We're providing all our own services, right? We're going to get Starlink satellite internet, which I'll get wired internet and stuff too. Yes, we're going to bring hydroelectricity, or meaning, traditional power, but we also have a bunch of solar panels. So I'm planning on doing both, a mix between grid and off, having both systems be available. And having that work for us, because as we generate electricity, I can sell it back to the grid or lower my costs of the grid. And so building near a city, but just outside of the zones of the service of the city, but also having and recognizing that between where the farm is, right, or the city is, let's say, and where the biggest kind of the real estate boom, which is called 10-30, it's where the 10 meets the 30 in Montreal, that area was going to have a train. I knew there was eventually going to be kind of common infrastructure or common transportation, right? Like buses or trains or whatever it was, of metro, that was going to go there. And that happened. And between there and the next exit on the highway, there's 10 kilometers of highway, or whatever that is, like 5 miles, 6 miles or whatever it is, 6 or 7 miles of highway with nothing, no exits. And so I knew on looking at the map, oh, they're going to make an exit right here, right where the overpass is. And I could see it. Like I could literally look at Google Earth and see the future. And I'm not just envisioning it as, like, I could literally see that, like, they had planned the on-ramp, but they just never built it. Like, they planned the on and off ramp. Like, I could see the idea of that. So that was another reason I thought this was valuable. Now, some of these others are very interesting in nature. Like, the third reason is I understood at the time cannabis was illegal and smoking weed was an illegal thing, that I could do an offensible thing. Now it's an essential service. Go figure me that, ladies and gentlemen. And now it's an essential service that the government sells you. Wow. Isn't that interesting? Big business. Big business. Like in alcohol, they have a monopoly on that business. Now, companies can make money off of it nonetheless. Farmers can still make money off of it. But here's the thing. I knew that hemp and cannabis, the legalization of that was going to be huge. I also understood that you can get tags in particular ways. And if we were a co-op, every person can have recreational amounts and get tags for the recreational amounts, plus medicinal amounts, plus all these other different things. Now, I see that as a currency. I see this as a way of regenerating the soil when it comes to hemp, using the same equipment of GMO corn and transferring GMO corn and soya fields into hemp fields. That's a way of building hempcrete and a bunch of other things that are all hippies love to talk about. I say hippies just to not be facetious or mean about it, just to say that these are topics that I'm not going to go into at this moment. But I knew that boom was coming to Canada. And I knew that if I had a farm, I can take advantage of that. So that was another reason. Part of what we're learning to do now. Part of what we're talking and in conversations about making today. And so that started to come online. And then I started to think about what other components are going to come in the future, right? What other pieces of the puzzle were going to play out? And two things come to mind. The first is rising food prices. If a bunch of older farmers are going to start to retire, and there's going to be more and more mouths to feed, and they're going to be eating more and more because we have an obesity problem in the world, and they want more and more delicacies, but they're also this movement of people wanting more and more healthy food, more and more organic food, more and more food locally sourced, then I knew the price of food was also going to be a massive impact, and that's element number 4. The price of food is going to skyrocket. In fact, we are not paying the full value cost. I'm not just talking about carbon footprint, but I'll get to that in a second. We are not paying the full cost of our food when we're buying steak or chicken or anything, really. I don't think we're truly accounting for the real cost of what it takes to grow food at this moment. We're subsidized by the fact that there's cheap labor and food coming from all over the globe. But what happens when the Suez Canal gets blocked or other, wars break out? What happens when you want locally sourced food or the food prices now have to start paying the carbon taxes of the length and distance that your food is coming from? What happens when certain things like bananas go extinct? Because bananas are going extinct. Did you know that?
Nope.
Bananas are going extinct, yeah.
I had one this morning that was delicious. I'm really sad.
You're going to be real sad if bananas go extinct, right? I mean, no, for real. Like, genetics are going extinct. Bananas, for example, the genetic of bananas are going extinct. Now, is there to say that we're not going to have another genetic of bananas? No, we'll probably figure it out, right? Just like we GMO'd and figured out everything else. But I understood that the price of food was going to rise, and that the further you were from a city or the closer you were to a city, that meant an opportunity. That if I could grow this food very close to a city, I can remove the middleman, which is the market, out of the equation. I can sell directly to people, and technology would enable that in many different ways. Technology would enhance my ability to scale the farm, to scale food, and it would build a direct connection customer base, not only within our community, but around our community, where we can sell that food at the highest margins and the highest opportunities. Plus, we can transform that food. We can eventually host a restaurant or host dinners. We can host private gatherings. We can do weddings or events. Like, I knew that I could capitalize and help capitalize with the farmers that are getting involved and that are involved in the project right now in that way. And all of that in a landscape where global warming and cap and trade systems and carbon taxes systems were going to come into play. And that's element number 5. See, when I planted that fruit tree 9 years ago in the middle of a GMO corn and soy field, I did not necessarily think about this fully, but it started to occur to me over time that the price of that fruit tree was a price today that over time is going to rise because there's less and less farmers growing the fruit trees, less and less people supplying the garden centers, and more people interested in fruit trees and in planting food forests in their backyard, getting involved in sustainability or all those different components, right? And so as that trend was going to continue growing, I also knew the trend of carbon taxes was going to become a thing, that your life and your consumption was going to be taxed. And if you lived in a everyday person life, if you were one of those people that it took 4.1 planets or 5 planets to survive, you're going to have to start paying the full price of your carbon footprint. And for me, buying the tree, let's say it costs $20 to buy a 2-year-old tree or $25 to buy a 2-year-old tree, roughly, depending, fruit tree specifically. I can plant that tree and I can make money off of selling the fruits of that tree, but that's going to take time. It's going to take probably 7 years, 9 years before you get the first fruits from that tree. And then you have to pick it, pluck it, clean it, sell it, market it, blah, 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 blah. But the value of a tree in carbon footprint, well, a carbon ton today in Canada is about $30 a carbon ton. But by 2030, we're expecting that to go to I think it was $120, $130 a carbon ton, or $170 even a carbon ton. So how much does a fruit tree sequester in carbon in its lifetime? And the average answer that I can find is that over 40 years, it'll sequester at least 1 carbon ton. So in 40 years, it's going to pay $170 or $170 in 2030 money, but in 40 years from, let's say, the day I planted it, it's going to pay like, I don't know, maybe $500 for a tree that I paid $20 for now. Now, yes, inflation and all those different things, but I also have the tree. I have the beauty of the tree. I have the fruits the tree are going to produce. And I have the carbon tax credits that I'm going to collect from people like you. And I say like you because I know your carbon, you're not offsetting your 100% of your carbon footprint. So you're going to pay that cap and trade tax. And in fact, if you're in Canada, you already are with your gas guzzler car, right? There's already a carbon tax on the gas you're buying. That's why gas prices are going to go up, and it's going to keep going up. So then you're going to say, but Mark, I'm going to buy Tesla because I'm like that. Cool, I get it. But there's going to be carbon tax credits short term on the fact you're switching over to electric, but over time, there's still carbon involved in making that car. There's carbon involved in everything you do. So if you can lower your carbon footprint by growing your own food, collecting your own water, making your own power, you can start avoiding expenses, keeping that money in your pocket, which is the lifeblood of business, ladies and gentlemen, cash flow. And you can use that cash flow and the time value of that cash flow. I studied finance in university, even though I hated it. Well, that time value of money is hugely impactful and important to your wealth. So investing in a farm is the fastest way for it to grow in real estate, the fastest way for you to capitalize on trends in the marketplace and trends in the global outlaying of city and the growth of a city, trends of, decriminalization of, cannabis or let's say psychedelic mushrooms or those kinds of things, all of which are coming or have happened. Trends in growing food prices and the boho chic, interesting, cool, hipster labels and locally grown, organic, everything, vegan option, gluten-free, and carbon taxes. I think it is single-handedly one of the best investments for a person to make, for a young family to make. It's the cheapest way you can build your house. It's the fastest way and the fastest path for you to build generational wealth, ladies and gentlemen. Generational wealth. Wealth that you can transfer over to other people. And by building the houses of other people and financing it in those ways, like I'm planning on doing, which is I'm going to build my house cash on the farm. Then I'm going to go and reevaluate the land from the bank or from whatever, family wealth fund or whatever, a bank basically. And I'm going to say, how much is this land worth now when I built this house and I paid for it cash and I hired my whole community to build with me with good deals because they know me and I know them. And I build it with them too, physically. Let me reevaluate this house and reevaluate the value of the land that now went from agricultural to agricultural and residential. What's the price of that? What's the comparables on the market of that? And the answer is there's not that many comparables. And those who want this lifestyle specifically, and I say that word very impactfully and very importantly, those who want this lifestyle will pay top dollar for it. And so the value of this property that I think I'm going to spend, let's say, $700,000 or $750,000 building a house, depending on the price of wood at this point, right? But that house is going to be worth $2 million based on local comparables. So I'll be able to refinance 100% of the money that I put into the house and then use that to continuously grow the farm, to continuously invest in the next farmers and a group of people that are helping grow the farm in every single way, turning it into the paradise, the abundance that I know I want in my life. And I know I can complete this entire project by the time I'm 35. And with that, I know I can retire on that money. Now, I'm not going to retire, but I am definitely going to retire from marketing. In fact, I already have. I've handed off the agencies to other people. I've let the clients go to other people who I've worked with and trained and mentored and helped out. People who I met with teams and people who I still, in my consulting work as a storyteller and as helping people like you build your brand, who I still reference and who I still maybe get a kickback from or, hire to do my own marketing, my own brand building and growth. But I'm retiring from that more and more so that I could do this. And in that house, there's going to be a beautiful podcast studio, even better than this one. It's going to have multiple sets, and it's going to be set up. You flick on the lights just like here, and you get ready because you can go multi-camera, right? You can bring in people like Kyler here who can make that happen. And so I understand that this was an investment in my future, but I was willing to play the game of saying, where do I want to be in like 10, 15 years? Where do I want to be like later? And how do I do that now in my youth, in my 20s and 30s? How do I invest in that in ways that are smart? And so those are those 5 reasons. And that's, I don't know if that doesn't compel you to invest in a farm, I don't know what will. But I definitely compel you to invest in fruit trees or trees in general. I think you should invest in hard assets and things that are going to inflate with value and time because we're printing more and more money. And that money is devaluating your currency. And more, these are taxes that are coming your way. And as a farmer, that is the best way you can move through these taxes and gain cheap access to money and large-scale loans because farmers need large-scale farm equipment loans and stuff like that too. So pardon the interruption. We had a little technical difficulty. The iPad got a little full there. But all that to say, invest in a farm. Understand that there's tax benefits for so many different reasons. There's all kinds of ways you can earn revenue as a farmer, build your wealth. Like I said, generational wealth in deep and powerful ways.